Wow, does that intro get me juiced up every time I hear it. Welcome, sports fans, to a very special edition of Sportsmemo's Football Forecast, in which we are covering the College Football National Championship, 3 big NFL roundtable games, all with playoff implications, and, of course, the very popular Best Bet segment. So grab that helmet, lace up those cleats. Get ready to make some money on the gridiron the next several days. Today we have an amazing show. What a good-looking panel. It's not a dating show. This is a sports betting show. Let me bring them on. My good friends, Jeff Michaels and Ross Benjamin. Let me do an individual. Jeff, good afternoon. How are you today, sir?
Good morning, Joe. Long time no see. I cannot complain. It's been a good afternoon, so I'm looking forward to talk some football and looking forward to some championship football on Monday. So I'm glad we added that to the slate today.
So as am I. My good friend Ross Benjamin. Ross, good afternoon to you, sir. How are you?
I'm great, Joey. Thanks for asking. It's a good day. Any day we could talk football, right?
You know, especially this week, we get to combine the national championship with 3 roundtable games in the NFL that all have playoff implications. Then our best bet segment. And I got to tell you guys, don't tell this to any of the other cappers here at Sportsmemo TV. I'm glad we're doing this show together, me, Jeff, and Ross, my friends. Before we get into free winners, guys, a couple of quickies. And, you know, I love an afternoon quickie. The Gold Sheet, the oldest and the most respected of all the betting publications. Every successful sports bettor and sports handicapper I know use the Gold Sheet. After the show, www.goldsheet.com. Use what the pros use. Guys, I say it every show. You know why? Because it's true. The best customer appreciation discounts on the planet right here at Sports Memo. Got a couple I want to tell you about. First of all, our $2 Tuesday featured cappers. Still available. My good buddy Dan Kaiser, Inside Zoom, and Tim Michael. $2 a piece at Sports Memo, or all 3 for just $5. You can't beat that with a bat. Oh, my goodness. Then we got a new one, and I've got to read it verbatim. I don't want to miss a thing. My friends, ring in the 2023 year with this big special. Get up to 84 days free. We want to give you 23% more on any all sports, all access pass of 30 days or longer. Head to sportsmemo.com after the show for more info. I'm going to tell you, oh my God, this is so wonderful. I bought it myself. I want you to know that. And the great folks over at Sports Memo. My wife and myself, the first family of Las Vegas, Dion D'Amico and Joe D'Amico. 7 days for either Dion or myself. All sports access, just $59. Use code FAMILY7 upon checkout. Guys, I am excited to share the panel with such great panelists today. Before we get into some free plays, guys, here are some football line moves this week from my good friends over at the Superbook at the Westgate, my favorite sports book on the planet. Whether you live in Southern Nevada or you're visiting, I'm telling you now, go over to the Superbook at the Westgate. You'll never, ever, ever leave forward your mail. These are a couple of line movements. Now, we talk about every week about how lines move, and obviously weather conditions, injuries, the last few weeks in the bowl season, obviously opt-outs and transfer portals, and the general public move lines. These specific lines were moved by the sharp money guys. We wanted to make you aware of them. Now, as far as the college football championship game, obviously it opened 13.5 and went down to 12.5. My good friends at the Superbook said this is not sharp action. Just staying in the line with the market for now. They're staying very competitive as far as this goes. But in the NFL, we've got 3 sharp money line movements. The Titans opened up 7, went down to 6, back to 6.5, so they bought it back. The Cowboys from 4 up to 7, and the Vikings from 4.5 up to 7.5. My. Once bitten, twice shy. Having said that, guys, we've got 4 amazing roundtable games today. I'm not going to do any fluff. You know, I know that you love my voice. You love to hear a lot of it every show, but no fluff today. Our first roundtable game, Monday, January 9th, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The National Championship game, SoFi Stadium. TCU, Georgia, the Bulldogs, 12.5, total 63. I'm going to go to my good friend, Jeff Michaels. Jeff, take it away.
Thanks, Joe. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, guys. It's been a long road, obviously. Tough loss last week for the Buckeyes, but, you know, competitive, exciting game. And if we get half of that game or that Michigan TCU game, we're in for an exciting one on Monday. You know, really only 2 big injury concerns that haven't been of concern, you know, prior to this game. Kendrick Miller, the running back for TCU, is questionable, but it does look like he's going to go. Georgia tight end Washington, he's a big part of the rush game. He's been an asset in the passing game as well, but he's only got 27 receptions. He is one of their leading receivers too. But, this TCU defense had what is probably their first really bad half of football. And it only came in the second half against Michigan. They allowed just 6 points in the first half and ended up giving up 45 in that game. I mean, their only loss of the season against Kansas State, they only gave up 31 points. There are teams that are giving up 31 points a game. So TCU's definitely got an impressive defense. They're 10-3-1 against the spread in the last 14 games. But, the only concern I really had on the side in this one is going to be the fact that TCU has turned over the ball 5 times in the last 2 weeks. That's as many as they had in the 6 games prior to those two. Obviously, some different level of competition there in a conference championship and then a college football playoff game. But it's definitely going to be an interesting one. TCU's first run in this college football playoffs. Sonny Dykes' first year here. He's 31-16 against the spread in his career in non-conference games, but he's just 5-16 against teams that have won more than 75% of their games. While Kirby Smart's 11-3 against the spread on the road in non-conference games while coaching Georgia. So, my best bet's going to actually be on this game. The side scares me a little bit. Georgia's a little more proven, but TCU has the potential to take down this defense, in my opinion.
Okay, great stuff from one of the sharpest minds in sports betting today. Great breakdown, great analysis. And thank you, Jeff. I do really appreciate it. I know everybody out there, too, even though you're going to touch base on this game during your best bet segment, that you broke down a lot, gave us a lot of info, great stuff. Well, from one of the sharpest minds to one of the most respected cappers in the history of this business, my good buddy, Ross Benjamin. Ross, give us your take on the national title game this Monday.
Thank you, Joey, for that intro, Jeff. That was a great breakdown, my friend. Very proud of you. Young guys who is very sharp, as Joey alluded to. Look, here's the thing. The total in this game is 63, which if you would have told me that Georgia was going to have a total this high at the beginning of the year or even halfway through the season, I would have said you're crazy. But it's for good reason. I mean, you look at the fact that, look, I said this on last week's show. Georgia's defense is very good, but they're not great and they're not dominating like they were a season ago. They prospered off of playing a lot of weak offenses this year. And most notably, their last 2 games against LSU in the SEC title game and against Ohio State, they gave up 30 and 41 points. On top of that, they gave up 549 yards to LSU and also 467 yards in that thrilling come-from-behind win last week against Ohio State. Conversely, Georgia has really been scoring a lot of late. As a matter of fact, 7-2. 7 out of 9 games, or 7 of their last 9 games, I should say, they've scored 34 points or more. Now, TCU, explosive offense. We all know that. I mean, look, they faced a Michigan defense last week that was giving up, 10 points a game? And they put up 45 points on Michigan while racking up 488 yards of total offense. This is a TCU team that has scored 34 points or more in 10 of their last 12 games. Additionally, TCU's defense is a little more suspect than you would like for a team that reached this level, and that speaks a lot to their offense. Why do I say that? Because they've allowed 31 points or more in 6 of their last 12 games. Georgia has shown the ability with an improving offense down the stretch and also a vulnerable defense over the last 2 games. And TCU proved last week they could move the ball on anybody, Joe. I'm going to go over the total in this game. Georgia, TCU over the total.
One of the most respected names in the history of the sports betting business, Ross Benjamin, says over the total. Another great breakdown. It's what I love about the cappers over at Sportsmemo. All leaderboard fixtures, all different points of view, all winners. You got to love them. Sports fans, don't go anywhere. We have 3 more roundtable games than our best bet segment. I'm going to tell you right now, if you miss any portion of our games, I'm going to run down the roundtable games at the end of round 4. Guys, our first NFL game we're covering. Saturday, January 7th, 8:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The Titans and the Jaguars. Jacksonville currently 6.5. Total 40. Let's start off with an icon of the sports betting business, and he's one of the best-looking guys I know. Ross Benjamin. Ross, take it away.
You're too kind, Joe. All right, so we're looking at the Tennessee-Jacksonville game, which is going to be for all the marbles in the AFC South Division. Two teams that come in with a 8-8 record. Is it 8-8, Joe? They both are. Anyway, terrible records for teams contending for a division title. Tennessee especially has really struggled of late. Look, the Titans have lost 6 games in a row. They've fallen off the map. They lost their starting quarterback, Ryan Tannehill. Then they tried their fourth round draft choice, Malik Willis, who everybody said should have went higher. But as we could see in his performances and his limited opportunities, he's just not ready to take the step to the next level. And now it's on the veteran quarterback, Joshua Dobbs. What's that mean to me? Well, Dobbs isn't a bad quarterback in a backup role, but he's in a high magnitude game here. I think that he's just going to be able to manage the game. And I look for Derrick Henry to play a major part of this game. On the other side of the coin, you got the Jacksonville Jaguars. They're red hot right now, 3-0 straight up in ATS in their last 3. You got a team that's 3-0 straight up in ATS in their last 3 against a team that's lost 6 in a row. The team who's hot is at home against the team who's not. It looks too easy, right? And usually when that occurs in the world of sports betting, it rarely is that easy. And I think this is going to be one of those specific examples. I think this game goes down to the wire as much as Tennessee has struggled. I think that the running game will be able to keep them in this contest long enough. And I'm not going to predict an outright win. It wouldn't shock me, but I'm going to take Tennessee here plus the points over Jacksonville, Joe.
Ross Benjamin, now you know why. One of the most respected names in sports betting in the history of the business. I love Ross, guys. I looked at this game, and if you would have told me, guys, before the season started, that come the final week of the regular season, that one of the most interesting matchups will be the Titans-Jaguars, I would have had you guys committed. You could have come live with me because my house is an asylum. But I got to tell you right now, in my opinion, this is one of the most interesting matchups this weekend in the NFL, and I can't wait to hear what my good friend Jeff Michaels says about it. Jeff Michaels, Saturday, we got 8:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Titans-Jags, Jacksonville 6.5 and 40. Take it away, Jeff.
Yeah, Joe, what if you add in the fact that not only is this one of the most interesting games, maybe I'm slightly biased as a Cleveland fan, but the Browns opening day, prior to the Deshaun Watson suspension, 4th string quarterback for the Cleveland Browns at that point. Still have Baker Mayfield, still have Watson. You got Brissett, 4th string quarterback starting in this game that decides the playoffs in another division. So definitely adds another level to that one. But, Jacksonville's a favorite for just the 5th time this season. And it's just the 4th time since the start of 2019 that they're a favorite of 6 points or more. So this is unfamiliar waters, but it did happen earlier in the season. They lost that one, but they covered their first game as a favorite last week in that blowout against Houston. Tennessee 7-9 now, 0-5-1 against the spread in the last 6 games. And not only did Jacksonville win 3 in a row and cover all 3 in a row, but they were an underdog in all 3 of those games too. Jacksonville has forced 8 turnovers in the last 3 weeks. And you got a Tennessee offense that has given the ball away 5 times in the last 2 games. Despite the fact that Tennessee's won and covered the last 2 games between these 2 teams in Jacksonville, Tennessee has struggled in revenge situations. And I do expect, experience to play a little bit of a role here. I think Derrick Henry probably has a pretty good game out of the backfield, especially with some extra focus on that run game, coming out of Tennessee there. I think Jacksonville continues their run, but I think 6 points is too many to be laying with the Jags here. So I'm taking the points with Tennessee.
Jeff Michaels says Great minds think alike, he said.
Brilliant minds, Joey.
Brilliant minds. I'm sorry. Brilliant minds. My apologies, sports fans. Brilliant minds think alike. Gotta love Ross Benjamin. He and Ross both say the Titans take those points. Guys, don't go anywhere. We have 2 more roundtable games, then our best bet segment. And if you missed any portion of the roundtable predictions, I will read them all after round 4. So without any further ado, because you know how much I hate to do, guys, Sunday, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Ravens, Bengals, Cincinnati, 741.5. Let's switch it up again. Let's start off with Jeff Michaels. Jeff, take it away.
Yeah, Joe, thanks. This is another interesting game, to say the least. There's a multitude of question marks in this game, probably more than any other game that's going on this weekend. Obviously, some divisional implications there too. But there's some big question marks, again, for Baltimore at the quarterback position. Huntley is questionable this week. He was limited at practice, but he was at least a participant, more than can be said about Lamar Jackson at this point. And you got a Cincinnati team that has been dominant. I mean, they've won 7 straight. Their last loss was on Halloween. They covered all 7 games, and beyond that, they covered 12 out of their last 13. So I can tell you I'm definitely not betting against Cincinnati, but I can't put my money on Cincinnati this week either. This is definitely going to be a game I'm staying away from. We've talked about it. Everybody has talked about what happened on Monday. But you kind of see the effects after the fact that it didn't have, or it had, not only on the Bills, but on the Bengals. I mean, I read reports that T. Higgins spent almost 48 hours consecutively at the hospital after that happened. He was obviously the one that the tackle was made on. I saw rumors that there was communication between Bengals players that about not even playing this week. So there's obviously an impact that it's had. And I'm not saying these rumors are true. The only fact about rumors is sometimes they're true, sometimes they're not. And so on, the instance that it could be true that some of the Bengals players were contemplating about not playing, and for good reason. I don't want it to sound like I'm questioning their decision, because by no means am I. It was a traumatic situation, but I can tell you that I'm not going to be putting my money on a game in the regular season that involves the Bills or the Bengals here until we start looking at the postseason and maybe playing for a championship. Puts a little different of a drive into those two teams. So I'm staying away from this one. If we hear something crazy about a Ravens quarterback situation, Lamar Jackson coming, maybe I'll go with the Ravens. But at this point, I'm staying away from this game as a whole.
Jeff Michael says he's staying away. Jeff, I really respect you breaking that down and giving that point of view that you have, because we are in uncharted territory right now with the whole situation coming from last week's, Monday night's, obviously tragic situation. But, Jeff could have just said, I ain't got nothing to say about this game, but I respect it. You still broke it down, gave some facts, figures. And when a guy, in my opinion, stays away from the game, it tells me as much about him as when he tells me he's very strong on an opinion on the game. And I love that about our cappers here at Sportsmemo. They are unrivaled. Speaking about unrivaled, one of the best in the business, Ross Benjamin. Ross, give us your take. Sunday, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Ravens, Bengals, Cincy, 741.5. Take it away, Ross.
Yeah, that was a great breakdown. And you're absolutely correct on many fronts, Jeff. And, being a resident of Western New York, big Bills fan, as you well know, Joe, I could tell you it's affected me all week. And I'm not a player. And I'm not about to put on shoulder pads and go at it against 300-pound guys this week. So all good points made by Jeff. And, here's the other thing, too, that adds to the uncertainty of the situation. Cincinnati, if they would have won against Buffalo on Monday night, they would have had the division locked up. Okay, but the game didn't get played. So now Cincinnati's only got 15 games played, and they got a 1.5-game lead against Baltimore. And if they win, obviously it's a moot point. But if they lose, you're talking about what do they do with this Cincinnati and Buffalo game? Because not to sound insensitive, and that's the furthest thing on my mind. I do not want to be insensitive at all. But if we're talking about football forecast and we're talking about what our predictions are, well, how do we know what's going to happen with this Cincinnati Buffalo game? Because if they need to play it, because let's face it, Buffalo, if they win out against New England on Sunday and against Cincinnati, if the game's made up, they're the number 1 seed in the AFC. And if you don't think that's important, just ask the Bills, who lost at Kansas City the last 2 years in the postseason. And on the other hand, Baltimore wins this game, they might fall short if that game doesn't get made up. They'll be 11-6. Cincinnati would be 11-5, and just based on win percentage, if they don't decide not to make that game up, then we were talking about Cincinnati still winning the division. So my point being is going hand in hand with what Jeff said. There's a lot of uncertainty going in, but if all things were equal, and that didn't happen last week, and I wish it didn't, really do. You're talking about a Cincinnati team that, like Jeff just alluded to, they've won their last 7 games. They're 7-0 straight up in ATS in their last 7. They're 9-1 straight up in ATS in their last 10. They're 11-2 straight up in ATS in their last 13 games. This is a team that's playing as good as anybody in football right now. Baltimore, on the other hand, they've certainly felt the absence of Lamar Jackson. I mean, their defense has been excellent, and it's carried them down the stretch here. But if you look at their offensive production, if Lamar doesn't play, you're talking about a team that scored 17 points or fewer in each of their last 4 games. You're going to need to score more than 17 against Cincinnati to beat them. You're not going to hold the Bengals to 17 or less. It's not going to happen. This team is too good offensively, has too many good offensive weapons. Having said all that, Joe, I'm going to pass at this particular moment in time. There's just too much uncertainty here. If indeed, like I said, that event didn't happen on Monday night, I would be a backer of Cincinnati in this spot for all the reasons I just said. But because of all the other outside factors and uncertainties, I can't give a strong opinion on this game and expect any of the viewers to follow my advice in that regard.
You know, Ross, guys, because I say it every show, and his reputation speaks for itself. One of the greatest in the history of this business. Ross, you broke it down, and you still gave some great content on both sides and everything going on.
You.
And I respect you saying, you know what, I can't do this, not this one, because that tells me a lot about the integrity of the capper, and we all know your integrity, as well as the other cappers here at Sportsmemo, unrivaled. You know, sports fans, very quickly, before we go into our 4th roundtable game, at the beginning of the week, I did my due diligence as a sports bettor and capper, and I looked at how many teams were eliminated from the postseason. That plays a part to me. Jeff and I talked about this last week on the First Family Show, and he said, that plays a part to him too, except if a division rival can play spoiler. That made a lot of sense. Great angle, by the way. 12 teams, don't quote me, I'm pretty sure 12 teams were eliminated from the postseason coming into this weekend. And I got to tell you, I can't remember how many games still had serious playoff implications, despite 12 teams being eliminated on the final week of the regular season. This is a great weekend of the final week of football. I'm over the NFL, guys. Having said that, we have another roundtable game. And if you missed any portion of the roundtable, I'm going to run through our experts' predictions after this round. And our 4th roundtable game, Sunday, January 8th, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Jets, Dolphins, New York, 138.5. Let's start with the Godfather himself, the chairman of the board, Ross Benjamin. Take it away.
Thank you, Joe. One team still has a chance of making the playoffs. The Dolphins, that is. They need to win, and then they need a lot of help. The Jets have been eliminated, and you're exactly right, Joe. It's a very good point that when you have one team that's still alive for a playoff berth versus another that's not, and it's the last week of the regular season, normally you would lean toward the team who needs the game. But that's not the circumstance here because it's a division game. However, I got more to add to that. Imagine that. The Dolphins, either with Teddy Bridgewater or Skylar Thompson. I mean, Bridgewater is listed as questionable. For those of you who weren't aware, he jammed his finger last week late in the game. Skylar Thompson came in and did an admirable job. And quite frankly, in the limited opportunities he's had, he's done as well as can be expected. Let's put it that way, especially from a quarterback that played at Kansas State and didn't play in a pro-style offense per se. But both teams come in ice cold. They both lost 4 in a row. And Jeff is going to like this. The Jets in that 4-game losing streak have been a -1 or greater turnover differential. They've been on the wrong side of the ledger. Does that mean why they've lost 4 games in a row? Maybe not the total reason, but it's certainly a contributing factor. Anytime you have an NFL home team like Miami, and they're facing an opponent like the Jets, who were -1 or worse in the turnover department in each of their last 4 games, those teams like Miami have gone 37-8 straight up since 2013. That's 82.2%. And they outscored the opposition in those 45 games by an average of 8.3 points per game. Why am I bringing up a straight-up betting angle? Because look at what the point spread is. You're going to have to win this game straight up unless it falls on one. And having said all that, by just the process of elimination, Joe, I have a very small lean, and I mean small lean, here on the Miami Dolphins to win this game over the New York Jets.
Wow. Great stuff from the chairman of the board of the sports betting industry. Ross Benjamin says he has a small lean on the Dolphins. Great stuff from Ross Benjamin. What we always come to expect from Ross. We're going to go over to Jeff Michaels, our final portion of our 4th roundtable game. Jeff Michaels, Sunday, January 8th, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Jets, Dolphins, New York, 138.5. Jeff, take it away.
Thanks, Joe. Yeah, this is another interesting divisional one that we got going on this weekend. A couple places I even saw that the line was pick here. So, moving even towards the Dolphins direction a little bit, but it's almost comical to the point of how similar the story is between these two teams. They started off rough the first couple games, was getting their stuff together, and then they both went on extremely hot run, whether that run was expected or not. I mean, the Jets won 4 straight. They were 7-5, and then they dropped 4 in a row. Miami had won 5 straight. They brought their record to 8-4 before they dropped 4 in a row. They've fallen to 8-8. They're in the outside looking, or on the outside looking in at the playoff picture, and on the farthest outside that you can be. And a Jets team that thought that they may have a shot to compete for the division is now out of the playoffs in the last week. But, I think another similarity is the fact that it kind of started to fall apart when both these teams got their quarterback issues. Mike White was the one that they thought was going to answer all their prayers and hopes for the Jets that they had seen. And, after starting Zach Wilson for a couple weeks, and then he gets hurt. So I think that the difference here is the fact that Mike White does come back this week. Not super confident in that, seeing as, Mike White is obviously a young quarterback that we haven't seen much of it at all, in his career, let alone this season. But, having a little more certainty in what level he was coming back to, whether that be good or bad. If we knew he was going to struggle when he came back because he struggled immensely prior, or if we had seen him be successful for multiple weeks, then I might anticipate a little more coming back from this injury. So it is a little concerning, questioning what back to the norm is, quote unquote, for Mike White. But I would probably give this to a situation that the Jets want to play spoiler. I think Mike White is probably coming back from this injury looking with a little something to prove. The Jets have played better actually on the road. They're 5-3 against the spread on the road. But they are averaging 5.5 less points than Miami is putting up in their home games. But those question marks with Miami quarterbacks here. don't exactly make it very convincing, in my opinion, on the other side either. So if it was bad enough for Teddy Bridgewater to potentially miss a fourth in the end of a third quarter in, what could have been a playoff deciding game, or at least giving them a better chance of making it into the playoffs, that seems like a serious enough injury to give me a little concern going into this week. Because if it wasn't, probably wouldn't come out of such a meaningful game last week. So I'm I'm with Ross in the sense that it's a very small lean, but I am going to put a very, very small lean actually on the other side on the Jets in this one. And I would probably just do it on the money line instead of laying the point, unless you can find that pick 'em line.
Great stuff, guys. Jeff Michaels, he said, you know what? Small lean on the Jets and probably go money line. Mike White will make the difference there. Sports fans, they'll go anywhere. We're about to go into our best bet segment, and you don't want to miss that. But first, let me run down our experts' predictions on the roundtable games. First of all, Monday, January 9th, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, the National Championship game, SoFi Stadium, TCU, Georgia, Bulldogs, 12.5-63. Jeff said, lean on TCU. Ross said, over. All right, let's go to our NFL games. Our first roundtable NFL game, Saturday, January 7th, 8:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Titans, Jaguars. Jacksonville, 6.5, 40. Ross said Titans. And guess what? Brilliant minds, Ross. Think alike. Our good friend Jeff said he agrees with him. He likes the Titans as well. Our third roundtable game, Sunday, January 8th, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Ravens, Bengals, Cincy, 7:41.5. Jeff said he's going to stay away. You know what? Those brilliant minds again. They're thinking alike. Ross says, you know what? I'm passing. So, guys, and I'll tell you what, I said it during that segment. I respect when a handicapper or a bettor stays away as much as when he feels very strongly, has an opinion on a certain side or a total in the game. Tells you a lot about that capper. I love the integrity of our cappers. Our fourth roundtable game, Sunday, January 8th, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Jets, Dolphins, New York, 138.5. Guess what? Ross Benjamin said, a small lean on the Fins, and Justin, I got a small lean on the Jets. Probably go money line if I could go there. And guys, don't go anywhere. Our best bet segment. And we're going to start off with my good friend, Jeff Michaels. Jeff and I, over the last year and a half, have done a lot of content on Sportsmemo TV. As a matter of fact, he does a lot on Wager Talk TV as well. You know why? Because he's doing some darn good work. He's a perennial leaderboard fixture, and he is one of the brightest young minds in sports betting today. Jeff is going to tell you what he's been doing. He's going to tell you what you could expect from him on the premium side over at Sportsmemo. He's got a free best bet. Jeff, take it away.
Thanks, Joe. Yeah, it's crazy. I kind of thought at the beginning that the show this week was on Friday because we had been doing the NFL shows. But, coming to realize on a Friday with no video, no shows is kind of sad and kind of exciting. So, it's always nice to be on here. Always good to give, everybody the information and hopefully win everybody a little bit of money. But I got a 3-pack over on Sportsmemo, guys, college basketball, going over there with a 4% best bet, number 2 in the last 30 days. And we've been on a hot run in college basketball too. But for my best bet on the show, guys, I am headed back to that national championship game. I find myself agreeing with Ross on that over. I have a little bit of a hesitation on certain aspects. So I found a different angle to take on this one than what I would normally give you guys on here. Found it on DraftKings. I'm actually going a 2-leg same game parlay on the individual team totals in this one. You can go Georgia over 27.5 points and TCU over 20.5 and get it at minus 130. And that just seems like an absolute steal to me. I thought over because of that Georgia OSU game. For a lot of the reason was because of that game. Seeing that this Georgia defense could potentially be vulnerable, is a big thing. Both Ross and myself alluded to it earlier that TCU's offense is impressive, is explosive, has the capability of taking down, some of the best, but there were question marks on if they could do that with Georgia's defense. And what we've seen in the last 2 weeks out of Georgia's defense, I do think that there is potential. But that is potential because we've seen a lot of back and forth football in the last couple of weeks. I mean, Ohio State's a good example, dominated by that Michigan defense for a long portion there in the final game of the regular season. They bounced back in an explosive offensive game against Georgia, but also Michigan's defense comes out and struggles in the next game. So you got teams that are turning it around one week to another. TCU loses the game against Kansas State 31-28. That game's got what, 59 total points? And then the next game they come out against Michigan and almost give up 59 points to Michigan alone. So a lot of back and forth and a lot of aspects of it being potential with TCU to take down this defense. But what I do think is the best bet is the fact that this score will be at least 21-28. And that's all you're betting right here. So Georgia gets 28, TCU gets 21, 3 touchdowns and 4 touchdowns for Georgia, and you're cashing here. So give me the same game parlay at minus 130.
Did I tell you, sports fans, or did I tell you? One of the signs in sports betting today. Great angle, great breakdown, great stuff from Jeff Michaels. Guys, the best customer appreciation discounts on the planet are right here at Sports Memo, and he's one of the best handicappers over at Sports Memo. So after the show, go over to Sports Memo, follow Jeff with those customer appreciation discounts, and you will ring in the new year with a bang, I'll tell you that. My good buddy Ross Benjamin, I call him the chairman of the board and the godfather, and the best-looking guy in sports betting. But I've got to tell you, I talk about Ross regularly because we do a lot of content together. But I say one thing over and over. You know why? Because it's true. You do something once, you do it twice, you can be lucky. That's all, man. You know, a broken clock is right twice a day. Do it for decades in this business. You could count those guys on one hand and have fingers left over. One of those guys is Ross Benjamin, one of the best in the history of the sports betting business. He's going to tell you what he's been doing. He's going to tell you what you can expect from him on the premium side of Sports Memo. He's got a free best bet. Ross Benjamin, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Joe. I appreciate all the kind words and the feelings right back at you, my friend. Joey, I'm listening to Jeff do that breakdown and the 2 team totals over the total. And I know we're 2 old guys, right? That if we have to count over 10, we have to take our shoes off. Over 20, I should say. But the total in this game is 63.5. TCU over 20.5 and Georgia over 27.5. I think that adds up to 48. So I think there's some credence to what he's saying. And folks, let me tell you something. I've been doing this a long time, and so is Joey. This kid's a sharp kid, this Jeff Michaels. And if you don't believe me, look at his record, look at his streaks, and jump aboard because he's going to make you some money. And don't let his youth fool you because there's the only difference between him and me is there's 41 years apart, maybe. But other than that, the kid's sharp. All right, now that I got done blowing his horn, let me blow mine. NFL still have 1 week of the regular season and the playoffs, folks. And, at Sports Memo right now, since December 12th of last year, my 5-star and 10-star NFL picks have gone 14-5. That's 73.7% and up 42.50 in terms of units. Also, since January 30th of this year, of 2022, I've gone 66-50 with all my NFL picks, which is 57% and made you close to 3,500 units. My college football bowl season. Why am I mentioning it? Because we got 1 game left and I'm going to have a top play. I haven't decided if it's going to be 5-star or 10-star. A lot will be depending on the line movement between now and Monday morning. But my college football bowl season, 12-4-1. A lot of people struggled during the college football bowl season, and understandably so. I didn't. So I think, like any other handicapper that will be red hot in one sport and another guy's not, this is the way we do things at Sports Memo. We promote each other. Jump on the guy that's hot, and the guy who's not is the transparent one, and you'll see that time and time again on video here at Sports Memo. So let me get to my free pick. Or best bet, I should say, excuse me. The Kansas City Chiefs at the LA Raiders. That game will be played Saturday at 4 o'clock Eastern time. Make note of that, folks. It's a Saturday game. The Chiefs right now, 7.5-point favorite. And the last I looked, Joey, the total was 52.5. And that's where my area of focus is going to be. Sometimes I'm guilty of overthinking situations. We all are. I know that when it comes to sports handicapping, when you do this every day, you get too cute at times and to your own detriment. I know that there's going to be a lot of money on the over in this game, and I do not usually like to agree with the general public. But there are times the general public is right, and I think this is going to be one of those instances. Why? Well, since 2020, these teams have met 5 times. All 5 games have went over the total. There's been a combined 61.6 points scored per game. Since 2020, the Las Vegas Raiders have gone 17-6-1 to the over at home. And if there was a total of 51.5 or greater in those home games, that improved to 6-0-1 over the total. Kansas City, the last 9 times they played Las Vegas, they've scored 28 points or more. Kansas City, since 2020, as a road favorite of 7 or greater, which they are right now, has gone 6-0 to the over, and those 6 games averaged a combined 61 points per game. The Kansas City Chiefs, number 1 in total offense, number 1 in scoring offense. The Vegas defense is, I want to say average at best, but that would be giving them too much of a compliment. But here's the thing. Las Vegas comes off a game last week in which they lost 37-34 in overtime to San Francisco as a double-digit underdog. They had their backup quarterback playing, Jarrett Stidham, because Carr was benched. Stidham comes in, throws for 334 yards and 3 touchdowns. I'm not going to go out on a limb and predict he's going to put in a similar performance, but look, this is a Vegas offense that scored 34 points and rang up 500 yards of total offense against arguably the best defense in the NFL. And I say arguably because, you can go a couple ways on a couple different teams, but at the end of the day, San Francisco was number 2 in total defense, number 1 in scoring defense, and the Raiders torched them. So I look for a high-scoring, entertaining affair, maybe even a little closer than people might think. And I'm going to go over the total of 52.5 here, Joey, and not overthink the situation.
Sports fans, over in the Chiefs, Raiders, the class, the integrity, the record. Just like there's only one Babe Ruth, only one Michael Jordan, only one Wayne Gretzky, and only one Sugar Ray Robinson, there's only one Ross Benjamin. After this show, go over to Sportsmemo. I'm going to tell you right now, you go follow him. Dip your toe for a month. You'll dive into the Ross Benjamin pool. I promise you that. He's a winner. Numbers don't lie. One of the best in the history of this business. Guys, it's about that time to lower the volume. I'm excited again. I didn't even need a Viagra today. Let me tell you first of all about what's going on tonight, Thursday night. I finally dropped the college hoops game last night, losing a unit for us today. I bounced back and sweep the college basketball board. I have a Big Ten game of the week and my 34-16 NCAA basketball high roller. I have them both posted for you at Sportsmemo right now, each just for $10. This way you can go into the weekend with a bankroll. And speaking of the weekend, guys, I'm really excited. Throw away that Viagra prescription. You ain't going to need it. I'll tell you right now, by this afternoon, a couple hours, you're going to have your choice of 5 huge Saturday and Sunday NFL winners, including my first 5% play of the new year and my national title game winner, which just might be at least a 5, maybe even a 10% play for me. We finished 2022 at 19-4 with my 10% releases. I'm going to tell you right now, we're going to start off this new year the way we finished last year. But as far as my free best bet, guys, I am excited. Takes place on Sunday in the NFL, and the Cleveland Browns, Pittsburgh Steelers matchup. Guys, the Browns are out of it. And following Monday's tragic Damar Hamlin situation, I doubt very much you're going to see this team jeopardize any of their future starters. Yes, they're going to see some action for sure. Yes, this is a division rivalry, but they're going to keep it very close to the vest here and be very conservative. Speaking of conservative, my friends, Pittsburgh, although very slim, still has a chance of making the postseason. A lot of things has to happen for them to do so, but first and foremost, they need to win here today. All right, having said that, I think we'd all agree neither one of these two offenses are lighting up the scoreboard. Meanwhile, both defenses seem to have stepped up big time over recent months. The Browns enter this matchup playing 6 consecutive unders, and the Steelers come in here playing 4 unders in their last 5 outings. Granted, the September 22nd matchup resulted in a total of 46 points scored, but that was in the first month of the season. Both teams were healthy. Both teams had most of the regular season in front of them. Prior to that, guys, both meetings a season ago went where? under the total. As far as the Steelers go, Kenny Pickett will get the biggest start of his very young career. Talk about playing conservatively, folks, and he's played well. This offense relies upon their ground attack to open up the passing game. And being that this is his first big game as a starter, you're going to see him play smart and try to make, obviously, as few mistakes as possible. This is going to be a very slow-moving, pound the ball up the middle type of game for both offenses, as Cleveland would love to play spoiler to Pittsburgh postseason hopes, and the Steelers would love to get a big victory here and keep their playoff hopes alive. The Browns have played to the under in 8 of their last 11 road games, 4 straight in the month of January. 3-0-1 the last 4 versus division opponents. 9 of the last 10 Steelers home games have gone where? Under that total. 6 of the last 8 versus the NFC North. And overall, 26-10-1 under the last 37 in the month of January. Guys, if you're going to watch this game, bring a blanket and a pillow, because my opinion is you're going to fall asleep. It's going to be so slow moving. Take the under in this matchup. It is a winner. Let me bring on Jeff and Ross. Before we sign off out of here, I want to get some closing thoughts and opinions. And then, sports fans, a couple of announcements in time for you to take advantage of all the great free winners you got from Ross, Jeff, and myself. Jeff Michaels, closing thoughts or opinions for our viewers out there, please.
Yeah, 2 quick things. First one, Ross, after you gave me the nod of approval, I went back to throw a little extra money on that same game parlay. Went down at 120, minus 125 now. So
Nice.
even less juice than it was before. So jump on that before it heads the wrong direction. And second, interestingly enough, Ross, about your best bet, only 2 quarterbacks to throw for at least 300 yards against San Fran this year are both playing in that game. So definitely 2 good offensive quarterbacks that are going on there. So we'll
Just
see.
like I said, Joe, this kid's sharp.
See if Stidham can keep it up.
Very sharp.
This weekend,
I got to
guys.
be on my game every time I share a pound with you guys. I got to tell you that. I love them. Jeff, any more for our viewers?
Best of luck to everybody out there this weekend, since I won't be back on before National Championship. You guys enjoy Monday. It's a holiday to me at that point, right?
Gotta love Jeff. Let me go to my good friend Ross Benjamin. Ross, excuse me, closing thoughts or comments for our viewers, please.
Well, I'll be on with you tomorrow morning, Joe. So I look forward to that as always. And again, folks, check out my NFL picks. Now, here's what I would say. I'm going to have a couple NFL picks for you on Sunday. But other than that, if you decide you want to not listen to any one of us and go on your own, my advice is this, is be very careful this week, because there's a lot of games where teams, it means absolutely nothing. Okay. And who knows what the roster rotation is going to be, if they're going to play players that they want to take a look at and see what they have, which is quite common in the last week of the regular season. So just be real careful. Tread lightly in the last week of the NFL regular season. A lot of football will be played ahead of us, meaningful football. That doesn't mean we won't have winners for you on Sunday, but just a word of advice.
Sports fans, the betting insights from years of experience from Ross Benjamin, unrivaled. It is worth its weight in gold, and trust me, he is worth his weight in gold. My good friend Jeff Michaels, one of the sharpest minds in sports betting today, guys. Well, you've heard it. All right, we're very excited. Don't forget to tune into all of Sportsmemo TV's amazing content. Hit that subscribe button to get a reminder. You don't want to miss any of our cappers, free winners, or betting insights. Thank you for tuning in, folks. Remember, increase your chances of making a profit. Follow the best collection of cappers anywhere on the planet here at Sportsmemo, because we don't go gambling, we go winning. On behalf of Sportsmemo, Jeff, Ross, and me, this is Joe D'Amico. Everyone out there, good luck and have a winning day.